Welcome to Keep It, Cricket Media's show about pop culture and politics and what happens when they smack into each other at an alarming speed. I'm your host, Ira Madison III, a television writer and Fall Out Boy fan.
I'm Louis Fertel. I'm a TV writer and Jane Fonda historian.
And I'm Aida Osman. I'm a TV writer and alleged comedian.
Let's get into it.
Over the weekend, the adaptation of Lin-Manuel Miranda's first musical, In the Heights, hit theaters and HBO Max to critical acclaim and low turnout. But it was good. I didn't mean for my voice to go up like that, but I'm pretending I liked it. It was good. I enjoyed In the Heights.
I did not.
You did not.
I mean, we'll get into it, but I thought it was everything John M. Chu did. Like the choreography looked great. The immersiveness of the world was well realized. But I thought every character had the same personality. I thought everybody was like a little bit plucky and a little bit sad and gonna make it work. And it was like there was no distinguishing between their ambitions, and all of their storylines were equally minute. Like the stakes felt low to me.
Except for Abuela.
Except for Abuela, who, by the way,
Take your medicine!
I watched on HBO Max. I should have gone to see it in theaters, but I actually sat down on Thursday because I thought the first 8 minutes were available, and I was like, I'll just watch the first 8 minutes. But I guess the whole movie was available, so I ended up watching the whole thing at home. I had to fast forward through the Abuela stuff because, oh my God, I mean, give me an old person in a movie, and I lose it. Coco, sorry, lost it.
Oh, yeah.
Up. I cried so much during that movie that the people who were sitting next to me got up and moved. So
Wow.
It's just old people in general doing basically anything. You
Yes.
need to not see Cocoon. You need to not see Cocoon.
Can't do it.
Okay. I feel like I really enjoyed it because I had the, still the muscle memory of seeing it on Broadway.
Oh, okay.
I saw. I also.
Oh, you went and
saw
saw a Broadway show? I'm blown away that you went and got to the theater. You don't bring it up. It's crazy. Go ahead.
Well, as you know, I did go to the Parsons School of Design.
Oh, okay. That's your new brag? Yeah.
Famously a Parsons student. I saw it on Broadway more than once because I entered the lottery a bunch of times. So it was enjoyable to watch. Although I will say that there's a lot you could cut from In the Heights. Because Lewis is right in sort of the depiction of the characters, and also just long. There's chunks of the movie where I'm like, what are we doing here? I will say the framing device was cute until the end. Did not like the way that the film was framed because I feel like it's basic lying to the audience. You have Usnavi telling a story, and it seems like he left New York City. It's like he's on the beach, and then you realize at the end that he's not on the beach. He's like imagining he was on the beach, and I think that is inappropriate and rude in storytelling.
I believe I was misled as well in that regard, and I feel like they could have. The simple solution is just put him on the beach, and they're there on vacation. He moved, but he realized that home is home, and he never wants to move permanently. I found it really hard to be objective about the movie. I don't know whether I liked it or didn't like it because, as a Latina in media, I was just so thrilled that it existed. And
totally.
That it existed, and the drama that has kind of ensued in the last few days has been so interesting to witness. But it makes...
That's how I felt with Soul Plane. Just so happy it existed. I still can't criticize it.
Talented Mr. Ripley here. Oh my God. White people looking so shiny, which we need.
We just need that. But yeah, I really enjoyed watching it, but I was and I have been so nervous and anxious about how it's going to be portrayed in the media and how it's going to be received by people because, and this is the unfortunate element of the fact that there's only one big Latin blockbuster that happens every few years. This has to mean everything to all Latin American consumers, which is so frustrating because it ends up having to be everything to all of us, even though we are not a monolith, and it's going to be impossible to service every, insular facet of Latin American representation. But it becomes this thing that everybody wants to succeed so badly that we're more concerned about how it's being received than what we actually think about it.
Mm-hmm. Right. There's this no debate about there not being enough Afro-Cuban representation in the movie, correct?
Yeah, Afro-Latinx, representation in the movie. Mm-hmm.
It is called In the Heights, and it is set in the Washington Heights, and I did live in the Washington Heights, and the movie is a little light for what the Washington Heights was, okay?
Yeah. I think it's a really valid criticism, and I'm glad that we're having that conversation because colorism is a thing in the Latinx community, and I don't think that it was malicious, but I just think that it shows an oversight in the kinds of faces that we traditionally see when it comes to Latinx representation on camera. And yeah, I mean the fact that it's about Washington Heights, which is a community that is very diverse in terms of the faces of colors that we see. I think that it missed the mark on that. But the issue is though that is a valid issue, I also think that the problem is that there's only one in the Heights. And if there were many, if there are other projects that we could turn to, if there were other films that we knew were coming out, then we don't have to place all of our hopes and dreams on this one film. But because there are so few, there's just so much that we require in order to be satisfied by a movie that's created by and led by a Latinx cast. And it's really frustrating. And to me, the bigger concern is this going to signal to the gatekeepers of the entertainment industry that Latino communities are not worth taking a chance on or are too fragmented to try to portray? And my belief is that is very cowardly. My hope is that this actually signals to people that there's a big, passionate and growing and burgeoning Latino community that wants to consume, and we want to see projects that represent what we look like. So now is the time to double down on that audience and to greenlight a billion different projects because clearly there's a hunger for it and an audience. That I think is a pivotal point that we're at that I'm hopeful to see. But to the point that's been brought up a couple times now, the fact that the box office was not great for the movie in the first week is a little scary.
Mind you, though, I mean, it's such a bizarre time to go back to the movies, period. Like, I went and saw it in a movie theater, and I don't even remember the last movie I saw. Like, maybe Bombshell a year and a half ago. Not a good movie to go out on. Bad choice, Louis. But I think people, I just read today that like 34% of vaccinated people feel nervous about behaving normally in society. So because we're in this gray area zone, I feel like people shouldn't read too far into this didn't get the box office results we necessarily wanted, even though A Quiet Place 2 has done mysteriously well. Not that it's not well reviewed or anything, but I got my eye on that movie. How did that happen? Anyway.
Well, I mean, people do love that jingoistic American cracker. I know that this man was on The Office, but the way that John Krasinski has like whipped up white Americans into standing him so hard, it should be examined.
Right.
Is it just because he's Jack Ryan and, white Americans love, military people shooting people in the face? Like, is that what it is? I have no idea.
It's those approachable cheeks. I mean, that's what's going on. Right?
I think so.
He is attractive.
It might have been the switch from Jim to Jack Ryan. It's the fact that we saw him evolve into, a hot action hero, I guess.
The Chris Pratt model, yes.
I am not ashamed to say, I'd fuck John Krasinski on an American flag.
Okay, well, not a question that was posed. So interesting that you had a response to it.
But an answer we needed.
But by the way, I want to say about In the Heights that to me, the triumph of it is a excellent spotlight role for Daphne Rubin Vega, who we still mainly know as the original Mimi from Rent. Right. And it's this name that lingers in pop culture, but we don't see a lot of her. And she really, to me, not only has a lot of personality in the movie, or has the main personality in the movie, because the other ones feel pretty static to me. She, I think, gets the best song, which is in the salon about the gossip. To me, that's the funniest part of the movie, too.
Yeah, I agree.
That scene and that song is iconic. And also, 95,000 was a highlight in the stage show, and it's definitely the highlight in the film. The dance sequence.
Lotto ticket sequence, yeah. Love it. By the way, as somebody who loves scratchers, and I think I just mentioned that I was in Texas visiting my family a couple weeks ago, I went ham on some scratchers.
I love a scratcher. I love lotto tickets. Definitely always used to get them at the corner store in Milwaukee, got them at the bodega in New York. And recently I was on a cross-country trip in the South, and like every gas station we stopped at, I always had to get a scratch off. So,
But doesn't it, I know this is a sidebar, but doesn't it feel strange and foreign to get scratchers here in California? For me, it does. I don't do it here. It's only when I'm home. It's only when I'm in the Midwest. I can't do it in California.
I do it sometimes when I'm buying like gas or I'm getting like a Red Bull before my night out. But it isn't in my immediate sort of like senses to get one here.
Yeah.
I was really engrossed once upon a time with the McDonald's Monopoly game, which was a sort of democratized version of scratchers for like that children could understand. The idea that I could leave McDonald's with a new Sea-Doo, I don't know, that really spoke to me. I think I'm very influenced by The Price is Right, so the prizes aspect really thrilled me.
Yes. Oh, I was going to say one thing about In the Heights, another element that I was thinking along the lines of the conversation about representation. I think that I feel like we're overlooking the fact that the representation of an undocumented character in this movie is really brilliant. I mean, I thought it was the character who had some funny moments, who wasn't just like stressing out about his documentation status during the course of the movie, which is a rarity. I feel like most often when we, with the exception of Nico Santos on Superstore, who I think is a triumph, generally when we see undocumented characters, they're just, enshrouded with this fear of like being found out, and that's their entire storyline. And I thought that In the Heights represented an undocumented character who got to have a little more depth, and that was great. So in the conversation about representation, I think it's important to bring up the elements, whether it's Daphne Rubin Vega, who we haven't seen in a while, whether it's an undocumented character, Anthony Ramos, who's somebody who, the film has now broken in a way that I'm so excited to see what he does next. I thought he was brilliant in this movie.
He is fantastic.
He really
He's fantastic.
is.
And I'm remiss that I have not seen In Treatment this season yet, because I hear that his episode with Uzo is fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
But I'm already stressed out talking to my own therapist. I've never been a fan of the original In Treatment because it's stressful TV.
I do think the original In Treatment is like underrated prestige television because it's television that exists to spotlight guest characters in really awesome ways. Like I remember Mia Wasikowska on that show. That was the episode where I saw, oh, you're going to be a huge star, and I'm still wondering what the fuck happened. I guess we did give her Alice in Wonderland, but Diane Wiest obviously brilliant. Etc.
Of course.
Yeah. Alice in Wonderland launched so many careers.
Well, it's just like Tim Burton has made a career now for like 25 years of making things you already thought he made. Like he's working on the Addams Family now. It's like you didn't do that before, And Alice in Wonderland, you don't have like a comic book about Alice in Wonderland out in the world.
I think I was talking to maybe my barber or someone else about this because I have a Batman tattoo that I got after Prince died, and it has the Prince logo by it too, and it's to signify that my favorite Prince album is the Batman album, and that also I love that film. And he was like, "Oh, I love that film, love Batman Returns." I was like, "Yes," and he was like, "Are you a Tim Burton fan?" And I said, "I don't know."
No, yeah, right,
because he is even wilder than most directors, who have sort of like an off film and then a great film. Like he's truly hasn't had even a film that I care to rewatch since Big Fish.
Ooh.
Right. I think he's also just somebody who it's so not just aesthetic driven, but a specific aesthetic. And once you've had enough of it, you don't need more of it. So he keeps delivering that, generally speaking. And like there are like Ed Wood is underrated in certain ways. Yeah. I would say it's like a better version of The Disaster Artist if you've ever seen that movie. But it's an easy thing to be over, especially when it's out of vogue, because he was very in vogue for a while. Anyway, I'm sorry to do this to our conversation, but anyway.
No. In fact, if I could just add one thing, the thing that I do want more of from Tim Burton is more about his relationship with Helena Bonham Carter, because that's a household I need to know about. I mean, I think they're divorced now, but like whatever that was, I just need to know what was going on there.
Right. Yeah, whatever he was drawing upon in his earlier stories, that made, the Batman movie was so great, that made Edward Scissorhands so beautiful. I need that again. I feel like he's definitely on autopilot with, giving you an aesthetic and giving you that feel that he used to deliver. But maybe he needs to go personal again, because I also think we don't know much about Tim Burton.
Right. But
which is
Helena
interesting.
Does.
Yeah, right. Helena, one of the great interviewees, by the way, if you're ever bored. I'm somebody who does this a lot recently. Maybe this is something I picked up in the pandemic and my YouTube just knows me. But just watch one person's interviews like for an hour straight. I'm very obsessed with the cast of the Mary Tyler Moore Show right now. But Helena Bonham Carter, brilliant interviewee when she does interviews, which I usually see in print, but look her up. She's great. Lisa Kudrow, fabulous interview. You could spend all day listening to her.
Yes, I loved it. I love that.
But I also wanted to add that Anthony Rabos is my second favorite performance in the movie. He really does carry it with a sense of not just relatability, but his drive does feel real. What he wants feels the realest part of the movie, I think.
I think that's totally fair. And I also think that, like, you know, box office be damned, when it comes to movie musicals, people will continue to discover them indefinitely. And I think that, you know, In the Heights is going to be one of those movies that people will discover for decades to come. So I think it's a worthwhile investment. I think it's a beautiful watch. I think it's fun as hell. But I also admit that I think I might not be the most objective viewer, because I also want it to do well and I want it to be so good. So, you know, it's an emotionally, I'm just more invested in it than I think I am with most movies, because again, we don't get that many movies to in this ilk for us, for Latin Americans. So
if you are disappointed in the representation of In the Heights, do not worry, because West Side Story is coming out very soon.
Oh, yes.